And have a pen and paper ready so you can take notes. So we're going to start off by looking at the moon. And you were born during a first quarter moon. So the way we can find that out is by first locating the sun and then counting over to where the moon is. And for you, it's 100 degrees away from the sun. So the moon was 100 degrees ahead of the sun, which puts this exactly at a first quarter moon. So first quarter moon, and it's in your 12th house. The moon is in your 12th house, and it's in the sign of Sagittarius. So let's first look at moon in Sagittarius. So this would tell us that your set point, the sum total of your moods over the course of your lifetime, is that of an adventurer, being on a quest or a mission for evolution and expansion. So just by you coming into your human form as a baby, there's already this fire about you that's wanting to go and explore, jumping, running, being very on fire and wanting to know everything, because the more that you learn and grow, the more your consciousness is allowed to evolve and expand. And this is something that a Sagittarius moon feels compelled to do, compelled to grow and expand. It's like a fire that is consuming. It wants to, not in the sense of consumerism, but in the sense of consuming life, wanting to really engulf and expand and taste everything. The thing about Sagittarius moon that's coming to mind as I'm, making these movements with my hands is that oftentimes people with Sagittarius in the position of the moon or the sun will tend toward adrenal fatigue or feeling burnt out, because there is such a drive for spontaneous action, just like a fire, wanting to, where can we go? What can we do? Like waking up one morning and being like, hey, let's go to Mexico. And just, so randomly just wanting to go and explore, or, just waking up and feeling passion for life. So this is a tool that you have, it being your moon position, that you're naturally gifted with the Sagittarius moon things. And then looking at the 12th house, this is the house of great mystery. The 12th house is below consciousness. So some people call this subconscious mind. Some people call this unconscious mind. I think of this as that all-encompassing, just use the word consciousness. And it's the consciousness that you specifically have access to, which is really all of it, but within your body mind. That's the 12th house. It has to do with the numinous, the doorway between physical embodiment and I would say disembodied consciousness, where, when you go to sleep and you're dreaming, that ability that we have to go lucid and be awake in the dream. The 12th house is that sort of bridge between those two worlds of complete physicality and complete dreamy consciousness. That's the 12th house. So your moon is there saying that you have this specific gift that has to do with expanding consciousness. And in a way, not in a way, but that part of your embodied experience that is between the two worlds. So we all have a 12th house and we all have access to unconscious material. Your moon being in the 12th house says that your special gift or the talents, even I would say the karmic patterning that you were born with, is in that 12th house material. So you may be somebody as a kid who wanted to play the Ouija board and who was extra interested in ghosts and spirits and wanting to possibly learn channeling, or maybe somebody who was into lucid dreaming. Maybe you still are. 12th house moon would be somebody who is interested in those kind of paranormal things. So, okay, so then the first quarter moon is in the hero's journey. The first quarter moon is where we are just, so let's look. First, we have the new moon, planting the new seeds. Then the next phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. And this is where we are still, just getting into the quest. First crescent moon is sort of like our first initiation into whatever it is that we're questing on. So like in a regular phase of the moon, when we get to first crescent, this is when it's like, okay, you've set the intention, you're already on the path. First quarter moon, which is when you were born, is where we meet the first initiation. It also has to do with taking inspired action. So putting your Sagittarius moon or being born during this first quarter moon, taking inspired action and being born when the moon was in Sagittarius, it gives you this extra oomph to get out there, quest for your particular, what is it? What is your purpose? Like, what is your quest? And that, with your moon being first quarter in the 12th house, the feeling is like really being initiated into the 12th house mysteries, and those topics coming up over and over in different ways. So it doesn't just mean in lucid dreaming or seeing ghosts or sensing the paranormal. It's not just that. It's all of that and everything else that you have available to you through your unconscious mind. Okay. Also, the moon for you have some aspects to the moon. I think I'm going to leave that part because we're 10 minutes in, and this is just one aspect of the reading I want to cover today. So let's look now at the south node of the moon, which tells us about your past, where you've been, what you have. Again, it's the same thing, past habits, addictions. The south node of the moon usually is represented by something that is an addiction. It's problematic. The south node typically is looked at as problematic. I think of it as some material that you've already accomplished, and there's really just no need to keep doing that. If there's something that you've already mastered and you just keep doing it, basically what happens is, like, if I went to university to study business and I just studied business my entire life, even after I already graduated, it's obnoxious and annoying, and and it's like I would be wasting my life. Just keep doing that same thing. So that's what it would be like if we kept following South Node and the moon. So when you were born, the South Node was in the sign of Pisces. So like your whole graduating class in high school was if they were born within that same year as you, would all have Pisces South Node, saying that the whole group, like the vibe of your classroom, of your graduating class, would have been slightly escapism, maybe extra drugs and alcohol, and also extra loving, empathic. There might have been a lot of like church, Jesus people, and people who wanted to save bugs and animals. It's like a very Buddhist bodhisattva type of energy with Pisces. As the South Node, it's kind of like that overall sense of wanting to help and heal. But your South Node is in the 3rd house, which is like Gemini. So this is saying that your past habits, addictions have to do with the realm of information, being the creative muse. The 3rd house is where I think of going to festivals, like wanting to go off and like meet the circus and meet the band, or we are the circus or the band, or we're a band of circus people. In the 3rd house, South Node in the 3rd house would be like the seekers. Because right in opposition to the 3rd house is the 9th house. The 9th house represents your personal philosophy, which you find by doing the seeking, going to the festivals, going to the shows, meeting the band, traveling, playing music. It's that creative, artistic life that you discover your philosophy. This is where we create our own unique philosophies, actually. So your South Node there in the third house, I would call this the Gemini job in the Sagittarius tribe. So it would be like this tribe of explorative, evolutionary, mind expanding, evolving consciousness group of people. You could call them philosophers. It's like if you're in a tribe of philosophers, your specific job within that tribe would be the one who is maybe the head circus person, or like, I'm trying to think of what that, your primary focus has to do with being the creative muse. So if you were in the tribe of philosophers, your specialty would be like the court gesture, who's gonna bring fun and be playful and creative and entertain all of these philosophers, which you are one too, but you just have this extra special part of you that is creative and playful and in service to spirit through having fun and bringing play and joy. So that's what you've already done. This is something that, like, in your current life, since you were born in 1997, so that's the year I graduated high school, and I'm trying to remember how long ago that was so I can just know how old you are without doing too much math. But you basically, like, when we reach 28 at our first Saturn return, this is where it's like really the cutoff point. Like, no more moon and south node things. You are not allowed to do them anymore. But up until that point, it's like you're really still just getting by on your past goodness, like the things that you are really good at. It's very crutch-like in the beginning of our lives, although we're going to get into now the North Node and the rising sign, because I feel like really early in life, people often get a hint or a taste of their rising sign and somehow get pushed out of it or invalidated, and it's hard. The rising sign, especially for you, because yours is in Capricorn, coming from all this playful philosophy, expansion, fun, coming from that, you know, your South Node and your moon, and then going into a Capricorn rising sign is very challenging. So what can happen is, like, we try to do those things of our rising sign and we get shut down or rejected, or we think we suck at it, and then we'll just like, I'm not doing that. But by the time you reach Saturn return, it comes back for sure. And it's like you get a sit down, and you get a talking to, and in some kind of a way during the Saturn return, which happens between 28 and 30. Okay, so let's look now at your rising sign, which happens to be, as I mentioned, in Capricorn, 6 degrees Capricorn. So the rising sign is what we're here to learn to be a master of. If we've already mastered the moon, the rising sign is, this is it. You know, every single thing in life will keep circling back around to you being the boss, you being the tribal elder, the one who is setting the foundation, creating sustainability for not just yourself, for your whole family, for your whole community. And it can even reach out as far as the global community. The focus is a householder, an earth, the earth element, being a householder, setting up the foundations for the next 7 generations. Capricorn rising. So some of the things that can happen with this, like I mentioned a minute ago, is that you can become disenchanted or feel like you've been invalidated some kind of a way from trying to do Capricorn rising. And like I said, it's kind of it's easy to be invalidated for trying to do Capricorn rising, especially as a young person, because it's like you're learning to be the grandmother. and you're still really young. I have a really good friend who is about your age, actually. Her name is Marissa. I think she might be 24 now, 23, something like that. And I met her when she was like 16 and teaching yoga. And she now has a school called Cyclical Body. You can find her on Instagram if you don't already know her. And she is doing Capricorn things. And I don't remember if she has Capricorn rising or if it was a Capricorn moon. I'm not sure. But learning how to be the chief and the tribal elder, especially at a young age, is a challenging thing, especially when you're past, the moon and the south node have this like very fun and playful and spontaneous vibe to them. Although Sagittarius moon can be also very serious because there is a tinge of the philosopher in Sagittarius moon. I notice more of the spontaneous, wanting to learn and study and travel. But it's also, it's enlightened in a way because it is more evolved and expanded consciousness. So coming now into Capricorn rising, I want to look at, so I mentioned what you're here to learn, how to be the boss. Some of the things that can happen is becoming like a know-it-all. So when we're learning how to be the boss, often you will have good ideas and you will be right. And other people are also right. So you need to learn to fully own what you know, own your wisdom, be, standing up, proud of yourself, owning your wisdom, and also allowing others in your circle to own their wisdom too. Because you probably are right, but so are they. So in their own way. So you want to ask intelligent questions and find out what their view is and their perception so you can gather all the information you need, listen to everybody else. You're learning how to be the chief. You're learning how to be that in that circle of grandmothers. So you want to be able to listen and learn how to respect and honor the voices of everybody in your circle. So being a know-it-all, being afraid to lead, and then, you want to take classes on leadership because Capricorn rising is learning how to be the leader. Now let's look at the North Node. That is up in the 9th house, which is, as I mentioned earlier, it's in opposition to the 3rd house. So the South Node and the North Node are always in direct opposition of each other. So it's in the sign of Virgo, which it would have been for everybody that was born, this, like I mentioned with the thing before, in high school. Everybody was learning how to be the priest or the priestess. Everybody was learning how to do their sacred work, be meticulous, be organized, know how to sort through information. But your specialty is in the 9th house, which has to do with, it's very much a lot like Sagittarius. 9th house is like Sagittarius in that this is where we become the philosophy of our life. Like everything you've learned in the 3rd house, which has to do with education and traveling and having fun and being creative. The 9th house is how you become what you've learned. Whatever it was you were seeking in the 3rd house, the 9th house is where you found what you were seeking. You've got the enlightenment. You've become that wisdom that you were seeking. So I would